Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all having a fantastic weekend. Mine is all right, thanks to two people, Lyndon Dykes and Kenny McLean. Thank you very much, gentlemen. All right, that's as Scottish as I'm going to go. But 3 wins from 3, beating Erling Haaland SC last night, beating Spain. This is a good time. Then we play Georgia on Tuesday. We know what's going to happen. West Ham-itis is going to come into Scotland. But what a fantastic weekend it's been so far for myself. Anyway, I thought we could do a little live video because it's Sunday afternoon, have a little chit chat with you guys who's watching live and see what you are saying about the transfer rumours about Declan Rice, Harvey Barnes, Palhinha, Edison Alvarez, anything that's transfer related to West Ham. Get your thoughts into the live chat and we'll see what you are saying. But as a little update, it's 3:30 on Sunday afternoon. The latest is there's not much about Declan Rice. Not much has changed in the last 24 hours. The rumours have sort of quieting down a little bit. Palhinha is being touted as West Ham's #1 target at the minute, the #1 replacement for Declan Rice, and West Ham are expected to make their move for the Fulham defensive midfielder anytime soon. And that's about it. Harvey Barnes, West Ham are interested, supposedly going to make a bid soon. It might just be a coincidence, but over the weekend, the rumours get less. It's funny that Monday to Friday, there's loads of transfer rumours. Saturday, Sunday, it gets a little bit less. Weird. And it gets even less when there's football on. So because England are played at the minute, we've got the Nations League final tonight as well. There's even less transfer rumours. So when you combine the two of them, it makes for quite a quiet weekend. Like I said, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with journalists having something else to report on other than make up transfer rumours. But here we are. Anyway, we're going to kick off with James Gunn. James says, Palhinha and Barnes, yes, I've already seen Ings play for us. No way do I want to see James Ward-Prowse as well at West Ham United. Joe reckons that Ward-Prowse is decent but not worth 40 million, while Sav says you're crazy if you don't want James Ward-Prowse. Shadow says you never want to overpay for a player, and even if we get him on the cheap, Ward-Prowse, I can't see how he fits into David Moyes' system. Joe thinks Ward-Prowse could work in the team, but there are better options out there. But he does think Barnes would be a great signing. Murph's a little bit suspicious, says that James Ward-Prowse, played a major part in the side that got relegated because he's the captain as well. Shadow also went on to speak about that. Vinny says James Ward-Prowse rejected West Ham last year. He's good, but one unimaginative target. This is my issue with pretty much most of the players that we're being linked with. Wood says Sangar is his #1 target. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm aware of him. I haven't seen loads of him, truth be told, but I know a lot of West Ham fans have wanted him for quite some time as well, actually. Vinny is saying, if Antonio goes, could Mubama be the replacement? Why not? I think the problem is faith that he would get game time. I get what you're saying, and I think a route into the first team is important for the youngsters, Vinny. The problem is, if we were to sell Antonio, am I confident Mubama will get more minutes next season? Not really. I'm confident that Danny Ings will get more minutes next season. I think that's my issue with it. Lack of trust in Mubama getting game time. And it would be a risk. It would be a risk. But you've got to give him minutes somewhere. It could be harder next year having Europa League rather than the Conference League. Can you play Mubama in the Europa League? I don't know. If we had, I know it's impossible to have qualified for the Conference League last year, given that we won it. But let's say hypothetically we were playing Conference League football next year. I'd make an argument that Mubama could start at least half of the group stage games at the level of opponents that week. That Mubama should be suffice in there. Phil, in regards to director of football, not much has happened. Obviously, Fabrizio did the tweet last week that that we were going to get Tim Steiden in. Nothing's happened since then. I know there's other in the news. Extra employee Sean Wexner have said that we've spoken to Tim. He's on the list, but nothing is agreed as yet. So I think it's a wait and see situation we've got going on with the director of football. Andy says he's glad Sullivan's got a little bit of cojones and is standing up to the bigger clubs regarding Declan. I completely agree. Aiden, I'm Gio, not Gonzo. Gonzo's the shorter one and the grey one. I'll get there eventually. Well, the grey part. I'm hoping not to shrink. How much do we think Palhinha is worth? I think Fulham are doing the right thing, demanding 50 million. I think Brighton are doing the right thing, demanding 100 million for Casado. We're doing the right thing, demanding 120 million. It's the right thing to do. But I don't think he's worth 50 million to West Ham. I think Palhinha is worth 50 million to Fulham. Absolutely. To West Ham, not really. I don't think it's great value. I'm a little bit I'm not doing cartwheels over the potential transfer of Palhinha. Let's put it like that. But this is what you guys say. I want to see what you guys are saying about it. Raya says Palhinha is a step back. Moisasaurus as Emperor says, are we getting director for passing the ball and retaining possession? Have to wait and see. Callum says, for some reason, I'm not keen on Palhinha. Feel like it drops the age profile of the squad, even more so with Ward-Prowse. Need a young and mobile midfield around Paqueta. That's my biggest reason, I think, against the signing of Palhinha. Nothing about his ability. It's not, let me make that clear. It's nothing to do with Palhinha's ability. Tom says, I want to see us get a striker, but not like Skamaka or Sebastian Haller. I would like to see a striker with more pace. It would make sense. Would fit what we're looking for. Jordan says, can Southampton really expect 40 million given the relegation? They've done well. That's the price in the relegation cost for price. I'll be surprised if it gets that high. Perhaps more interestingly, James Maddison looks like he's going to be the first big profile player to leave one of the relegated clubs. 50 million to Tottenham because there's a 15% sell-on clause there. So obviously Leicester have got to give up a bit of the money to Norwich City. But 50 million for Maddison, I think, is actually quite a good price for West Ham. And the reason I say that is because Ward-Prowse ain't anything like Maddison. Older, not as good. And Harvey Barnes as well. I don't think Harvey Barnes is as good as Maddison. So if they're valuing Maddison at 50 million, and bear in mind they're giving up 7.5 million of that to Norwich City, what does that mean Barnes' value is? 30, 35 million maybe? Using Maddison as the barometer, I think that would put Barnes at 35 million and Ward-Prowse maybe around 30. That's my opinion. But those clubs can ask for what they want, really. But Bama should go out on loan to develop him further, says Raha. Tom says there are very few steps forward from Rice without spending our entire budget on a defensive midfielder. I think the club have got the right idea to go for two. I think we're going to go for two midfielders. I don't think it's the incorrect thing. Major said we'd love to see us go for Ben Johnson, Conor Gallagher, Romeo Lavia, and Harvey. I think that would be ideal. I'd love that. Raya says we were linked with Edison Alvarez. Palhinha is a dead investment. Maximum we can get is 2 years out of him. I think we can maybe get 3-4. He doesn't rely on pace. I think that's always a rule of thumb for me. If you're signing someone in their late 20s, how much do they need that speed that they've got? With Palhinha, not so much. He's not really got it, has he? So I think the way he plays football shouldn't really be impacted by his age. The only thing that gets impacted by his age, that's a detriment to West Ham, is his valuation. What we can sell him for later, should we wish to. Joe says that Palhinha is a great replacement for Soucek, but definitely not for Rice. Chow says anything on Alvarez? Not really. The newspaper articles yesterday suggested he was our number one choice, but we hadn't made the move. I think the problem with Alvarez is I think there's almost an expectation he's going to go to Dortmund, that he wants to go to Dortmund. So it feels like that needs to fall through in order for West Ham to get the man. But at the end of the day, if we are able to pay Ajax what they want and Dortmund aren't, Alvarez will have two choices: stay at Ajax or come to West Ham. Scarborough says, I suppose Palhinha would be good in the sense that he doesn't take risks, and as long as we have someone alongside Paqueta with creativity, it could really work. I agree with that. The Tower says, I hate that we're going for Palhinha. 50 million for a 28-year-old with no resale value. We're buying a Moyes player when he'll be gone next year. Where's the sporting director? Sullivan needs to sell up. Just Matt said, I'd be happy if we got 100 million for Rice and spent it on Palhinha, Ward-Prowse and Barnes. I don't know if you'll get all three for 100 million. You won't be far off, but I think if I had to make a prediction now, Matt, I would predict that you're not far off that in regards to what we receive for Declan Rice, 100 million. I don't think you're far away with that. And who we go by, Palhinha, Ward-Prowse and Barnes, I would not be surprised if that's the three we go get. It feels... It's believable because Moyes has already hinted about how he would prefer to invest within the Premier League and get players in with Premier League experience. And I get it. I get why he would do that. I don't think it's necessarily a silly thing to do. The silly thing isn't Moyes buying from the Premier League. It's a little bit unimaginative. It's a bit boring. You feel like there's a lack of value there. But if Moyes, hand on heart, believes part of the reason for our failure last season in the Premier League was bedding in players from foreign leagues, it would make sense as to why he would stick to domestic purchases as much as possible. The stupid thing isn't that. The stupid thing is the manager only having a year on his contract, and we're allowing him to spend 100 million this summer. Because what we don't want next summer is to replace Moyes and have to go get someone like David Moyes. You want to use next summer as a clean break to go get someone that perhaps plays a bit better football, a bit more entertaining, a bit more attacking. That's my ideal anyway. But then we're assembling a squad that doesn't suit those managers. It just seems like so short term. We're ready to spend 100 million on next season, and that is it. And then the next manager can reevaluate. Maybe that's part of the plan at West Ham. Maybe they're thinking we'll buy Palhinha if he has a really good season and the new manager don't like him. Maybe we can sell him and get 40 to 50 million for him next summer as well. I don't know. It's all guesswork at this stage. The one thing we do know, though, with West Ham is they never do the correct way usually. Rude's thoughts on Musa from Valencia. Honestly, I only seen him at the World Cup. I don't watch Spanish football. I've heard of him. Everybody's heard of him. I've seen him for USA World Cup. Looked good. Apart from that, I don't know. And you can only take... I don't tend not to take what you see from international tournaments too much because it's a completely different environment. Playing in a World Cup is completely different to playing in the Premier League and La Liga in this instance. Saying that, I liked what I seen from Amrabat when he played for Morocco, so that was enough to persuade me. Dean said he's very surprised Moyes isn't going from McGinn. Now Villa have so many midfielders. Thanks for the kind comment as well, Dean. Just too expensive, McGinn. He's playing really well under Emery. They've got European football next season now. I'd be surprised if McGinn left Aston Villa. Gad said he watched America against Mexico. Alvarez and Musa both look really good. Alvarez has some dark arts at West Ham need. Yank fan said he's a bit biased, but I think Musa would be a good signing along with Alvarez or a other player. I would like Alvarez. When I watch Dutch football, I am such a plastic when it comes to Dutch football. I'll watch Ajax, a bit of PSV, and that's it. I don't really watch anyone else. I don't have time. It's just not a thing. So when it comes to watching that league, my knowledge of Ajax players, I think, is all right. PSV, a little bit. Other than that, not loads. Unless I watch the weekend highlights from the league or something. But again, you only take that with a pinch of salt. But I think Alvarez would be a great signing for us. I'd be more excited by him than Palhinha. Similar enough players in the sense that you get the defensive side of the game, but that is it. You're not getting... And this is the problem. We've accepted we cannot replace Declan Rice. We've accepted that. Someone that can do the defensive side and let's call it the progressive side of the football. Because Rice isn't that creative. He's not that creative. But he's able to dribble. He's able to move the ball into the final third relatively comfortable. And that's what we're missing. Palhinha ain't going to have that runs up the pitch that we've seen from Declan. When he's got a shot on him, Palhinha, he's not that bad at shooting. But it's the bit between the halfway line and the 18-yarder. He doesn't really produce anything within there. Neither does Alvarez, who's not got that bad a goal-scoring record for defensive midfielder. But I wouldn't expect it. And this is why West Ham probably do need to buy two centre midfielders, the defensive side and then something else. But the big question is David Moyes going to drop Thomas Souček? Because the answer is no, then we're in trouble. The answer is yes, and then we're buying two centre midfielders and we could be in business, really. Dean says, at least with Palhinha, we can always stick him down for yellow card in our pre-match bet we can. Same with Alvarez if it was him that we got. Jordan says, completely hypothetical. Now what you know about Onana, would you have taken him for 30 million instead of Palhinha for the 50? Yes. However, hypothetically, would I like Palhinha for what Fulham signed him for, which was 20 million, I think? Don't quote me on that one. Maybe a bit more than that, actually. But my point was, Fulham have made a wise purchase. Onana wouldn't be 30 million now if you got him from Everton, would you? So I think it's more fair to compare them both prior to their moves to the Premier League. And I'd probably still prefer Onana, but my point was, Palhinha wasn't 50 million 12 months ago. Soldier said, Ward-Prowse's set pieces match with our tall lads, a match made in heaven. While I agree, Ward-Prowse would be replacing Thomas Souček. So, in theory, while your set piece taker improves, we've now got the best set piece taker in the Premier League. The guy that you want to target at set pieces is now out the squad because Ward-Prowse has just taken his spot in the team. I know you could play Souček, Ward-Prowse, and Paqueta, but hand on heart, let's be realistic. Does anyone want to see that? I don't think I've seen anybody suggest that as a midfield next season at West Ham. Paul's going to stick his neck out and say there's a 50-50 chance Rice will be here for the first half of next season. I think City and Chelsea will outbid Arsenal. Rice won't go and hold out till January or even July next season. The Hammer Boy 08 says, I'm worried about Palhinha. Great talent, but I just don't think he'd be very good value. Much rather Alvarez as well. Hammer Boy says, can't believe we haven't looked into Romeo Lavia, whether we'll be able to get him or not. See, the thing is now I've seen Arsenal are linked to him, Man U are linked to him. As soon as the season finished, West Ham should have been straight in there for Romeo Lavia. Forget what's happening to Declan Rice. None of 40 million, whatever, put the bid in. And if you get Lavia and Rice doesn't go, happy days. Lavia behind Declan Rice, push Rice into Souček's role next to Paqueta. You're laughing. You've got an unbelievable midfield there. I do feel there was a window of opportunity to go get Lavia. And clubs like us, Brighton, anyone else that were debating it, I think you've missed it now because now Arsenal have come along, said, hey, we'll have Declan Rice. Going, oh, how much? Oh, was there a cheaper one? Lavia. Let's go have a look at him instead. So be interesting if Romeo Lavia does go to Arsenal, what that means for their pursuit of Declan Rice. We'll have to wait and see. Wilburn says, don't understand Palhinha or Ward-Prowse signing if we don't get someone aggressive alongside them like McTominay. I'm saying nothing about Scott McTominay. I'm biased. Wouldn't be surprised at all if we get next summer and find out our owner has given Moyes a new contract. It's possible. Stoner says, all Leicester fans I know think Barnes is very underrated. I like him a lot, so I couldn't speak for myself. 13 goals in that Leicester City side in Premier League's nothing to be sniffed at, is it? Ray, we'd like to see us to get Tammy Abraham in January and swap him with Swap Sab. Who's Sab? Who are you talking about? Do you mean Skamaka? I don't know who you're talking about. Who the hell is Sab? What are you on about, Ray? I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, let's move on. Matt says, do you think Palhinha is a natural centre midfielder, defensive midfielder, not try and push forward too much like Rice? He could almost be better than Rice as allows Souček and Paqueta. See, well, naturally I want to say yes, but I actually think Souček was pushing forward for the last quarter, maybe a third of the season that we've just had. I think Souček was pushing forward. It's just not that effective anymore. I think Rice was sitting for the majority of last season, and Souček was the one that was getting up into the pitch. But Johnny said Palhinha is a great player. We just need another midfielder with him. We can't play Souček, although he really likes him with Palhinha. Roger said Wolves are selling Ruben Neves to Saudi Arabia. I've seen that. It just feels a bit of a waste, doesn't it? 47 million is, it's a decent bit of money for Wolves for a player that wants out and has only got a year to go on his contract. But Neves is only the 26 and he's off to Saudi Arabia. At the end of the day, listen, in 2 years' time, he can come back to European football, 28 years old with millions in the bank, set for life. Who's to dismiss him for doing that? But I'm right? I wasn't going to say this on a video, but I've been lured in now by Raja. I can't be the only one that thought, could West Ham get Ruben Neves? I can't be. Right, 47 million. There must be other West Ham fans out there that have seen that. I thought, him? Could we get Ruben Neves at West Ham? Could he come for 50 million? I think it'd be a great deal for West Ham. Is it unrealistic? When he's linked to Barcelona, you think, well, he's not going to come here, is he? But then when you see him going to Saudi Arabia, you start to think, well, but if money is his objective out of football, so be it. And I don't have an issue with that. It's never bothered me players joining clubs for money, just because we use that. That's why some players come to West Ham over other clubs. If we get Edson Alvarez over Dortmund, he's coming for money. It works both ways. We can't complain too much, I don't think. Hammer Boy would like to see Conor Gallagher. Dynamic and something different, playing a few different positions too. Seems a no-brainer. I agree. I think he would fit what David Moyes does really, really well. We'll have to wait and see. Chris says Gallagher gets too many yellows, but then Palhinha's got the most bookings in the Premier League, so can't really. Webley says, I'm hoping the club announced Tim Steidden and he hits the ground running with a few players from other leagues. Well, this is it. I would expect him to rock up with a little black book, and that's what you're buying, really. Well, that's what you're hiring, isn't it? His contacts. Scott would like to see a young midfielder in for Rice, pair him with Alvarez, and we have a decent midfield. Be a little bit sideways and backwards for my liking. I don't think we're going to see too much creativity. Hammer Boy says a good point. All these teams after Rice seem to be signing someone else. Caicedo for Chelsea, Lavia, Arsenal, City might not even need him. Have to wait to see. Wood says Robin Koch is being linked on a free transfer. I've seen that. That would be a wise investment. With the African nations coming up as well, I heard about Ben Rama. I think Koch on a free transfer feels like a bit of a no-brainer. Decent age, decent experience, plays centre midfield. Centre back predominantly, can cover in a defensive midfield role if needs be. I think it makes sense, to be honest with you. I would be happy if we were to get Koch. I wouldn't want to pay money for him, but given that he's free, he's got, for those who don't know, he's got a clause in his contract which prevents him playing in the Championship, which was an interesting way of wording a clause. Usually it's just a relegation release one that you can leave for free should Leeds get relegated. But partly the clause is it prevents him playing the Championship. Now, this could mean, depends how long he's got. I think he's only got a year or two left, so he's cheap anyway. But Leeds could, of course, loan him out for the season, get promoted, and then he's back in the Leeds' squad. But there's a bargain there for somebody. George said, how about Fofana from Monaco? Now, I know nothing about him. I'm not going to pretend, but I've seen lots of West Ham fans want him. And there's a few people that I trust their opinion of what of a player. I think that's all right. They would really like him as well. So that sort of makes me a little bit excited should he come to West Ham. But in regards to a personal opinion of him, I ain't got one. Sorry to disappoint. You come here for a little bit of chit-chat and, well, you ain't getting any about Fofana. I don't know anything about him. Osbedian Curse says City might not need Rice, but they might not want anyone else to have him. Completely agree. At the end of the day, they're going to sit there and let Arsenal have him, who finished 5 points behind them in the Premier League. Man City have got weaker because one development that we've sort of not really taken into consideration too much is that they've confirmed Gundogan's leaving, so he won't be a City player next season unless something dramatic changes. So be interesting to see what City do. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. I just wanted to have a little chit chat with y'all and see what you were all saying. With regards to the transfer window, there'll be loads of rumours. This week, coming up on Hammer's Chat, we'll be doing an honest talk about David Moyes. I've left it on purpose for a week or two because of the winning the Conference League final. I didn't want to sit down and get a little bit whingy because there will be whinging in it. It's an honest review of David Moyes this season at West Ham. There's going to be negativity in it, right? So we're going to be doing that this week. We'll be keeping up with the transfer rumours and stuff. We'll be talking about Harvey Barnes and Palhinha in particular, should they join West Ham. And we'll hopefully have a video with a special guest later on this week on the channel as well. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Please do drop a like on the video by clicking the thumbs up. It helps the channel out massively. Subscribe if you're new to Hammer's Chat. And I shall catch up with you tomorrow. Look after yourself. Be good. Be lucky. I'll see you in a bit.